Hello everyone, welcome to External Secrets Community Meeting. I'm Gustavo, I'm going to be your host. As a friendly reminder, we do have a code of conduct. I'm putting it on the chat here. You can see on the right on the screen, on the left of the screen. We also have meeting notes available on HackMD if you want to just jump in and see what we're discussing here, if it happens that this is not recorded. Okay? Hey Moritz, thank you for joining. As
Hello.
usual, we will go over the notes in order and then we can further discuss it. The first one is license can't issue and see also a CNCF issue there.
Yeah, so in last week's the topic has come up quite frequently regarding the FOSSA maintenance burden that it puts upon us. It's a main pain in the ass to just approve exceptions manually for every update. It's just a pain in the ass and just a waste of time essentially. So I dug a little bit and I found this issue in the CNCF landscape or in the CNCF Foundation. Initially, well, I guess history doesn't really matter. So I found out that a couple of other projects, they use like different tools for it. And we do not have to use either FOSSA or SNCC to do the scanning. The problem is, so we can update our license to use FOSSA Enterprise, which costs like a shit ton of money every month, which is something we definitely do not want to do. But then we can have these longer lasting exceptions, but we definitely do not want to have that. And the same goes for SNCC. We also need like some, I don't know, enterprise, whatever kind of license, which is insanely costly. So I took a look at other projects, and it seems they use like different tools for the purpose, which is also like completely fine. We do not have to use either FOSSA, either FOSSA or SNCC to the scanning. We can just
Use
use
any
the tool
tool that
whatever we'd
we.
like. Yeah, we just have to be sure that we update the. So in our Git repository, we have a CLO monitor file. I think it's called .clomonitor.yaml, and there we like point to a GitHub Action job that runs regularly. They will then just do the license scanning in the background, and this is linked via the CLO monitor CNCF app, where they then just track like best practices and all of that stuff. So we just got to make sure that we point to the right scanning tool, and then everything should be fine. The problem is though, so other tools, they are mostly like specific and bound to a like specific language or what have you, and we have, I guess, sure, we use mainly Go, but we also have some Python dependencies for our build of the documentation page. So we also like need not only one tool, but like two tools at least to cover the most important stuff.
The most important stuff is really on Go, right? I mean, eventually we can move from MakeDocs to Hugo, I think is what it's called, which is basically MakeDocs for but based in Go, so that we can leverage a single source of truth as an option. Not saying that we're going to do that, but yeah, I see the point. Do you already have any tools in mind?
Not really. The ones that I found, they were just old and deprecated. Not yet archived, but last commit was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. One was called Lichen. I can also put it in the docs. That's one that I found in some other tools that I've used it. Let me see. Just gonna add it to the HackMD docs as well. Lichen, it's called. It does the job, but it's also just limited to Go. Yeah, I think like initially before we joined the CNCF, we already had some license scanning tool implemented. Maybe you can just revive that and
Yeah,
it
that
over
was
to.
based on a Google project. I can get the comments back.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% I think it's also based on Golang mostly. I'm not 100% confident on the quality that we get there, but I know it was way more stable, at least on the checks that we did. We had much more control than FOSSA.
Yeah.
I know that SNCC is also an option that we can get a license via CNCF, right?
I don't think so. I'm not sure about that though.
I think it was on the comment, like the first comment from Chris. From yeah, the first comment is we have some projects that use Snyk. Okay, that's just yeah. Never mind. That just means that people could use Snyk and white source, but we only provide Fossa, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but also just the open source, like the free version of Fossa, basically. Um,
Which is the pain in the ass.
yeah.
Another alternative is to automate the approval of issues on Fossa. We create an automation to do the
Yeah.
talking about the realm of
If
possibilities, right?
yeah. It would still like look pretty odd in our CI if you have a PR open that doesn't violate the license, but it's red because yeah. But yeah, I guess it's probably good, and maybe one action item we can take out of it is to create an issue and document the problems and come up with a different solution.
Yeah, and then on that issue, I can also post the tool that we used to use with the
Yeah,
Google one that I even forgot the name, but I know it was based
yeah,
on a Google work.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, let me just write up an issue on it, and then we can track progress on that.
Next, I'll just wait a little bit, add it as an action item maybe. Add it there.
Cool. Thanks.
Next one is deprecation policy.
Yep. For that one, so there was a PR recently that fixed a bug essentially in the vault provider where you had to set the namespace on a secret ref, I believe, or a config map ref. But if you use a secret store, then you must not specify the namespace, or you shouldn't specify it really. And then this is like a small API change. Now we set the default, but we cannot really, because like some backwards compatibility, we cannot enforce people to not set the namespace, because then that would be like a break and change. However, we usually do that whenever a secret store is used, people must not set the namespace. This is the behavior that we want to have, and that we would like to enforce it. However, we cannot really do it because it's a, at least in my opinion, a
Yeah,
pretty rough breaking change.
the
So I
for config map there was a history behind it. It was back still when I think his name was Dan from DigitalOcean was still contributing a lot to the project.
yeah.
Specifically on Vault, he pointed out that it didn't really make sense to forbidden to forbid secret stores to get a config map on a different namespace, because that's basically a CA certificate. So specifically for config map ref, I think we even had validation there, and then we took it away because it made sense back then. As in, a secret store could eventually get a config map from a default namespace or from any other namespace, because that's not sensitive information, as we use it only for the CA certificates. Uh, the bug that was originally there is that it makes sense that if there is no secret store, we should do this. If there is no namespace, we should use the secret store one. But in that particular case, I don't think we have the same issue as we normally have with the secrets, just because of the nature of the CA certificate.
Okay, I see now. Well, I didn't know that, or I forgot about it. It's been quite a while since then.
Oh yeah.
I'm okay. Interesting. So, well, I still think like at its core, like cross namespace references shouldn't be possible, like
Yeah,
on a purely on a design basis. I guess for this particular use case, an exception would be
and
fine. I guess.
this is the API change that we want to do, right? Maybe that's the thing that we want to enforce, is that hey, if you're using secret stores, even the config map reference can only be fetched locally, and then
Yep.
indeed it would be a breaking change, with which goes over the original point, which is the deprecation policy, anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we do not necessarily we do not need it only for this case. I already found a second case where someone just copy pasted that code and put it in a different provider with the same problem. The default has not been set, and people are able to reference a config map in a different namespace. So that bug is going to be fixed as well eventually, but still, there could be some other cases as well where we want to, make some changes to the API, and we would like to tell users about it that we would like to change this API and um, issue some warnings about it through admission control or maybe some events on the secret store or different places that we want to put these warnings on. So I think like generally it makes sense to have a deprecation policy just to inform people about we're going to change this behavior, we're going to remove a particular API. I think that's also like pretty helpful to tell them about this. So I would like to propose like two things. One is to open up the secret store validation API so provider implementations can return admission warnings directly. So this is then presented to the user. Um, and then we can have like provider specific validation rules that issue warnings, which then presented to the user in when they QCL apply or whatnot. This is one thing, and the second thing is that we want to have like some sort of automation that whenever APR um, produces a breaking change or a slight change in behavior that could or will probably break some users, that there is like some field, some I don't know, multi-line comment or whatnot that is then just copied over to the release notes, so we have like all of them in place. That's something that other projects do as well, so that at the PR level you can just say like this is a breaking change in behavior, blah blah blah, and all of that, and that will be then in the GitHub release note.
Regarding the only question that I have, I agree with all of that. The only question that I have is what is our intention to be part of our deprecation policy? API input output changes, which means the CRD, basically status and spec, or do we want to go even further and deprecate behavior as well? So let's say the API does not change, but the behavior behind it changes,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Kubernetes 1.24, for instance, just to give a simple example. Do we want
Yeah,
to also take that into the deprecation policy or not?
I would take that in as well, like both one like spec changes and two behavior changes. Um, I guess it would make sense. This is also part of the issue to just first identify all the like issues that we have and things that we would like to change, and review them carefully, and then we'd come up with a strategy on how to do this. I think for the behavioral changes, I think it would be great to not break users immediately and instead issue some admission warnings and force them to, I don't know, set a command line flag so they can opt in to the new behavior because the old behavior is deprecated. And then we can just, have a sort of a transition period before we release 1.0 when we, or maybe even later 1.1 or whenever, and we then just drop the old behavior and get rid of that functionality. I think one use case was that I think there were some slight differences in the find all using tags, where some tags are ended and
Some
others
are
are or
or,
together.
yeah.
And this is like one thing that I think it's the AWS provider that I stumbled upon yesterday, where a user, I think it's that one, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And like these slight API changes where we will definitely break some users, and we need some way to inform them that there is a change in behavior and new behavior that we would like to enforce, and that they should opt into this new behavior for good reasons.
Yeah. It is tricky to include feature flags in there when we think about behavior changes, right? Because
We have that already. That like a provider
can register
define
their
its
own
own.
feature flags. Yes, okay. Yeah, we're good then.
Yeah.
Cool. Ooh, easier than I thought. And this, I will just change a little bit the logic here because I think this is super relevant. The major client of this deprecation policy is the deprecation of Secret Store, right? Because it is not only an API change long term, but also a behavior change. Uh, I just want actually an update because I did not join community meetings for a while. Did we advance on this one or not really?
Um, we discussed it, and I think like I was like the only one sort of not really blocking, but like having concerns. And I've discussed it with Lucas, I don't know, like 2 meetings ago or maybe three, that I do not want to, like block these changes or anything. I just have my concerns, and I think like most of them are really resolved now with the latest comments that you put on that issue. So I'm happy to approve it, and we can just get going with the current proposal to just add this new provider ref, it's called, I think, and then we point to a new custom resource that then contains the provider specific things, just to have like a clean transition period. Um, yeah,
So the
so I'm
original
fine with
proposal with
it.
all the ifs and elses, and then eventually we create the warnings saying, hey, secret stores are eventually going to be deprecated. If it is completely or just the provider field, we do the whole things that we're going to say that we're going to do with the deprecation policy. And then once that we wait for a while, and then we can safely deprecate it, either the secret store itself or the provider block from the secret store, and then just let a secret store with provider ref, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's nice. So I have some work to do.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Sorry about
Oh
that.
no, I'm actually happy for this work. It's like one of the things that I think when we were doing validation, the validation webhooks, I was looking at that, I was coding that, and I was like, this is going to be such a pain. So I'm actually glad that we're taking away a little bit of the pain
Yeah,
while providing
I think
features. So,
yeah, I think there's still one thing missing, which is the formal approval of all the maintainers. So we need some sort of a vote. I think we didn't really start a vote on that, but I think we definitely should, and I guess it would make most sense to do it asynchronously so people can
I will create a
just the
new
Slack
comment
thread.
on the proposal and say that we've
Mhm.
discussed it and ask for formal votes on a given GitHub comment.
Yeah,
+1 thumbs up being a vote, thumbs down being a no vote, basically. A no,
yeah.
yes and no. And individually ping everyone, basically.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, cool.
Awesome. And then we can further decide what do we deprecate on the secret store. We all agree something needs to be deprecated, either the provider block in favor of provider ref, or the whole secret store in favor of the provider uh, being the only choice that people can do, right? For the second one, we would probably need to add some code. So maybe on the implementation, I already do some changes to allow both scenarios. Basically, we can pick and choose whatever we want.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds good.
On that sense, to prepare for it, what I will regardless do, just I will also document that on the proposal. The secret store logic, I think I will indeed bump it to actually be just a provider controller to create new provider CR custom resources, because this one will make it easy for the secret store to be deprecated. What I will not do is move the features from the secret store itself to this new provider control, to this new provider creator CR, just so that we can then it will be less things to move regardless depending on the decision that we go for. See what I mean?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
It's basically and then yeah. Anyways, now I have the implementation in my head. This will make us go. I'll just be sure to document that on the proposal.
Yeah.
Let me just do that then. Document implementation of providers to allow for both secret store or secret store.spec.provider location. Ask for maintainers votes. I'll put myself in this one. Thank you. Next one is add provider for deprecated store. I agree with you. No, we shouldn't probably be doing that. That also brings to also deprecation discussions. What happens when we have providers that were not archived and then they become archived? We should probably be deprecating them as well, right?
Uh, yeah, I think so. Because there will, well, that's kind of hard to tell. I guess, as long as people use a particular piece of software, they need it in ESO. Um, However, I think like from a documentation perspective, it should be deprecated, and maybe just put a simple note in it. Look, this project has been archived, and we do not intend to maintain it any longer, and we will eventually remove it just to show users that we do not have the intention to maintain it post-mortem, basically. Which doesn't mean that we're not going to do security patches, updates, and whatnot. But we do
But
not
that's
want to
kind of the
just
point though, because imagine that a provider was deprecated. That code, the clients that we use, will stop being
yeah,
bumped for security patches, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess it makes sense to have like a timeline. So we say,
Yeah,
okay, we deprecate it now
this
and
is
keep it
something that we
for
can
the more risks,
actually
and we're going to
include on the
remove it.
deprecation policy, right? Like, hey,
Yeah,
what happens if my provider my provider was archived, is no longer maintained? Does that mean it's going to be deprecated from ESO? And then we can provide an answer, yes.
yeah,
This is how
yeah,
it's going to work in this case, and then we can put the reasoning behind it.
yeah. Added it to the GitHub issue.
Cool.
Cool.
So
So
yeah,
we decide that we do not want to add that provider.
yes.
Um,
I think from your comment there is still a chance that that specific provider can be actually archived by mistake, if I understood correctly.
I
If
I
that's
don't
the
know.
case, yeah. If that's the
Yeah,
case,
that would
yeah,
be the
we look
case.
at it. But the point is, clients that are not receiving security patches are going to be trimmed. If you try to add a client that is already not receiving security patches, we are not going to accept it.
Yeah,
Basically, security posture policy.
yeah, yeah.
Simple as that. Cool. I think this one we don't even need a vote. It's like kind of straightforward. The last point. On February 24th, we're going to have an ESO Contrib Fest in KCD, Brazil, São Paulo.
Nice.
I will be hosting it, and Victor from the community is going to help me out. The bit that I wanted to ask, if is there any issues that we would like to cover in there?
Any specific ones?
My idea, I also got a talk there. So,
Nice.
and the talk is going to be basically, with his approval, a talk on Lucas' blog post on automation. And I will extend it a little bit to show how secrets rotation can be fully leveraged with ESO. Spoiler alert, sorry people that don't know that yet already. And my idea would actually to leverage the contrib fast to implement a new generator type. And it is aligned with a very, very, very new comment added by Ihakan on External Secrets Slack channel around adding custom generators without forking main. So that's probably the issue that I want to do there, because it allows for people to create, for instance, a GCP pub sub keys rotation, GCP Cloud SQL secrets rotation for databases, something that today we can do only using Vault dynamic secrets, which means people depend on Vault, allowing for custom generators. They can create an API server, simple API server with some clear definitions, and do that for them. Coolest thing is that for generators, this actually works because we don't need to send any sensitive information. It's just probably a token to communicate with that custom generator that is set up both on ESO and both on the generator deployment. And then it kind of works. I think it. Do you see the whole idea?
Not really, not yet.
So when we think about rotating passwords for hard things like databases,
Mm,
today is a little bit pain in the ass to do. you can do it with Vault using dynamic secrets plus some custom configuration in Vault.
Yeah.
The whole PR is to take Vault out of a picture, basically, and only allow people to create their custom code for the thing that they want to update. Let's say databases on cloud providers, locally on-prem, we don't care. So it's an API that serves as, hey, generate some new credentials for that specific target. That API replies with the credentials to ESO. That's it.
Okay.
User defines the API, and then this is a custom generator.
Oh, so that's called like an external generator because the generator code is like outside of ESO. It's just some custom component that they run some, I don't know, Lambda
And then we
function or some API.
and then we define an API interface there.
Mhm.
And this is going to be basically very good for automatic rotation setup.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
So I'll take that as a. I'll probably even create a issue then, and external generators, I will call it.
Apart from that, there are like lots of good first issue labeled issues.
And I'll probably
Like
need some of them
stateless.
even like a. Maybe I'll implement the external generators for the talk then. Do you
So
know if
people
there
then
is
can
any?
implement their custom stuff.
Sorry.
So people can then implement an actual provider that they can then.
For instance, yeah,
Yeah.
that's an example. And good first issues. Do we have any documentation issues there? That I can double check, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some documentation issues. Just one. Well.
That's also good enough.
Oh, cluster secret store. So there's an issue. Need a concise way to trigger a refresh for a cluster external secret. Not sure if that is even valid anymore. Like create an attach an annotation to a resource and then force reconciliation. No, I don't think this is needed anymore, to be honest.
I think the issue. Oh yeah, because of the changes that Shohei actually did, right? He did a whole rewrite on how we actually do that, and
Yeah, it's not pretty reactive, so we don't reconcile it every with a specific interval. We just do it
react to the
reactively.
changes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I guess there was also an issue regarding probes to add probes to ESO components like starter probe, readiness, liveness, wherever it makes sense. Just add it to the Helm chart and maybe also where needed to
That is
some other
also a good
providers.
one to think about because people not necessarily are going to be Golang developers or aware of Golang. So
Yeah,
having documentation issues, deployment related issues, and then code issues are actually the three type of issues that are actually good. Thank you.
yeah.
Nice. That was it. Any other business? Anything else?
I had like one or two other topics which are more like generally. One is the 1.0, like the stable release. Yeah, I don't have like any specific
For
questions in mind there.
1.0, I would say is deprecation policy we just discussed, and probably the secret store, the provider actually.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Like these are the
We don't need
most
really to
important.
deprecate the secret store on 1.0, in my opinion. We can have it there. We can even
Yeah,
bump it to V1 and then just prepare for deprecation on a 2.0 of ESO that might be very, very, very earlier than on 1.0. It's like
yeah.
we took 3 years to 1.0, we might take 3 months to 2.0. I don't care. Consistency is not my
Yeah,
forte.
yeah. It doesn't really matter anyway. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So that makes sense. The other topic was
This is also a nice possible issue.
bump the version, or
Yeah, bump the CRD
like
to
just the
V1.
review? Yeah,
And this is actually something that people that would be there would actually like to do and can be a little bit supervised if we get there in time, basically.
yeah, yeah. I guess we also probably want some feature flag so we, can like toggle it whether or not we're going to ship them. Though I'm not sure if it's like that easy to do.
The V1 one?
Yeah, the V11, the V11 CRDs. I think like we still want to like make some changes, which may require a little bit more time, like fixing slight inconsistencies in the provider specs and all of that. So I guess it would be great to have the spec there and then just iterate on it if that would be
Mm,
possible. But I think
what we
it's
can do then is just do some prep work and deprecate V1 Alpha 1 and the conversion webhook logic there for V1
oh yeah,
Alpha 1.
yeah, that makes sense.
And then
And
we
also
have like,
the V1 template could also be deprecated already as well.
yeah, exactly. So we can actually do this deprecation as part of the contrib path, which will also be super cool. V1 Alpha 1. Prometheus, I think is something that we wanted to deprecate. The conversion strategy, which is no longer needed for a while, which is also something that we want to deprecate.
Yeah.
And the template V1. Yeah, that's already good. Cool. And it's a relatively easy PR to do. It's like, let's delete some code and pray for the test to not be broken. So that's good.
Yeah, I think for the conversion strategy, it's probably fine to just remove it because there have been like so many events and warnings and whatnot regarding it. So I think it should be fine
Yeah.
to remove that already.
And a lot of
It's just
issues
been
of
quite a
people
while.
saying, why is this happening? And we replying to every single one of them. I agree with you. It's about time we just cut it.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So that was one thing. The other thing regarding CNCF incubation, if and when we want to start the process, I already started with reviewing CLO monitor and some other like security related stuff. I have a PR open on that. I'm waiting for review. There's like not really much open because what we should do on a regular basis to like have a yearly review of the project, which we didn't do last year, but I think we should do it this year with or even before applying for incubation.
So two things in separate, CNCF incubation and project yearly review, right?
Yeah, these are like two processes. Just the question like if we want to go with incubation directly or if we want to wait for it. I think it's about time to do it. To be honest, I think we have like enough,
Everything.
yeah, of everything. So I think that should be fine. And I don't think it's worth really waiting any longer for it. Like we do not necessarily have to wait for a V1 to be released or so. So I think it's fine to just.
Do you know when's the next TOC review?
I don't know.
So I will put even a more basic action. I think the easiest way, especially because for incubation we need someone from the TOC to sponsor us. I think the very first step could be find TOC members and talk to them, right?
Yeah,
That can probably be the very first step.
yeah,
Nice. Cool. Uh, so I added here, talk to TOC members first as they need to champions regardless. I think talking to CNCF ambassadors also might help, which is good. And project yearly review. This one, I think we probably want to do it with most maintainers, right?
yeah. I think it will be good. I don't even know like how to trigger that process. I just need to dig it up and find it out.
Indeed. Awesome. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
So thank you all for joining. I'm stopping the recording now.